evening to everyone. I'm Joyda. Welcome to the first installment of this series named Empowerment for Effective Self-Care. Tonight's topic is on anxiety. These training sessions are organized by Sower Institute for Biblical Discipleship in partnership with Care Corner and supported by Evangelical Alliance of Singapore and Hope Initiative Alliance. During the sessions, you will hear from our experienced counselors from Care Corner as they share and discuss with you more about mental health issues topics. So for tonight's session, you will get to hear from our first speaker, Madam Evonne. We will also have a short Q&A segment where Evonne will be assisted by Mrs. Lily Chan to answer some of your queries to the topic of anxiety. To welcome all of you for this session, we have Reverend Ezekiel Tan, General Secretary for Bible Society of Singapore, to say a few words on this program. Thereafter, we will watch a short sharing from Reverend Chua Seng, Deputy Senior Pastor of Bethesda, Bedok-Tampines Church, in the topic of the Christian and mental health. So let's take a look at the video.
On behalf of the Bible Society of Singapore and all our partners, good evening to one and all. Thank you for joining us today for our session on empowerment for effective self-care. It is really heartening to see so many Singaporeans and even friends from overseas joining us for this session. A warm welcome to all of you. Today we are living in a world of uncertainty. COVID-19 has changed the way many of us go about our life, regardless if it is in the area of our work, our family, and even how we spend our personal time. While the changes may be just something new for us, there are some who have been impacted greatly by it. The loss of job security, the time that is spent at work working, secluded from others, has had a toll on some. Also, some marriages have been adversely affected. While some are living in fear at home, being abused yet not being heard or seen. Hence, it is in these times that there's a need for more to know about how they can take care of their mental health and how they can identify others who may be under a lot of stress and anxiety as well. The Bible Society of Singapore, with our partners, came up with this program, Empowerment for Effective Self-Care, in hopes to be a light to people who may actually need these resources, but do not know who they can approach for help. Topics such as understanding and managing anxiety and how we can embrace ourselves and others with kindness in the midst of challenges will be shared by our experienced speakers in their respective sessions. I believe that when Jesus calls us to be salt of the earth and light of the world, He wants us to be the one championing causes that aid people who are in need, not just monetarily or mentally, but in all aspects of life. Once again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our various partners in the mental wellness series, such as Care Corner, the Evangelical Alliance of Singapore, and Hope Initiative Alliance, who have chosen to come alongside us to organize this series of talks. It is truly our privilege and honor to have with us speakers who are experienced counselors from Care Corner to share with us more about mental wellness. May all of you be empowered through our series of talks, and may we all enjoy greater intimacy in our relationships with God, with the people around us, and even with ourselves. Thank you. God bless.
The Christian and mental health. For some people, they find this title oxymoron. Why? Because for them, if you are a believer, you have the Holy Spirit. And if you have the Holy Spirit, there's no need for psychiatrists. All right, because the Holy Spirit in you will help you to remove every mental health problems in your life. Besides, mental health problems are never specified, are never mentioned in the Bible. Now, this logic is so flawed, all right, because when you and I are sick, even as believers, we have the Holy Spirit, but when we are sick, we will still see a medical doctor to treat our physical illness. You see, doctors are part of God's overall healing grace for us today. Psychiatrists are doctors for our mind. Now, just because mental health is not mentioned in the Bible, it does not mean that the condition is not in the Bible. Also, there are many conditions not mentioned in the Bible. For example, cancer, diabetes, computer addictions, and all sorts of addictions. Does that mean that the Bible has no solution for this? No. We believe that our Bible is more than enough to help us to overcome all these problems in our lives. You see, mental health issue is a complex issue because human is complex. What is mental health to begin with? Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It is more than just our thinking because we are all interconnected. Our thinking, our feeling, our ability to socialize, they are all interconnected. It affects how we think, how we feel, how we act. It also determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence and all the way through adulthood. You see, over the course of our life, we can experience mental health problems, and it will affect our thinking, our mood, and our behavior. Now, many factors contribute to mental health problems. It includes our biological factors, such as the gene, our brain chemistry, life experiences, such as trauma, abuse, or family history of mental health problems. Mental health problems or mental health disorders are common, but help is available. And if you're watching this video, I want to encourage you to know help is available, both from the secular organization as well as from the church as well. Now, people with mental health problems can get better, and many recover completely. All right, so I hope that if you're watching this video, I hope that you find hope in God, that there's always hope in recovering for yourself or for your friends who are suffering with mental illness. Now, first and foremost, how do we define mental health problems, or how do we define mental health disorder? You see, a mental health disorder or problem causes significant changes in thinking, feeling, and behaving that affects a person's ability to relate, work, and engage in social activities. All right, so that's the definition of what a mental health disorder. It will affect us, all right, in such a way that we affects our ability to relate to people, our ability to work, and our ability even to relate in social setting. Some of us may ask the question, how is this even possible? How did this mental health problem started? Now, mental health problem is like any other sicknesses in our life. It is a result of sin in humanity. Not necessarily by the person who is sick, but due to the overall consequences of sin in humanity. Some of you may still think that, but there's no mental health disorder mentioned in the Bible. So let me just pause and share with you something. All right, these are the 9 criteria for doctors, counselors to examine a patient for depression. All right, so for example, low mood most times of the day, decreased interest or pleasure, changes in appetite, sleep issues, agitation or motor retardation, fatigue or loss of energy, feeling of worthlessness or excessive guilt, poor concentration, recurring suicidal ideas. Now, when the doctor used this checklist to look at a patient, and if a person exhibited 3 or 4 of these criteria, they will be treated for clinical depression. Now, based on this framework, can we find some biblical characters with possible state of depression? So let's take a look. Let's start with Old Testament. We can see many spiritual giants in the Bible who had struggled too. Moses, in Numbers 11:14, said this, I alone am not able to carry all these people because it is too burdensome for me. So if you are going to deal thus with me, please kill me at once. if I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my wretchedness. You see, if you look at Moses, at this stage of his life, you can see agitation, you can see fatigue, you can see suicidal ideation, you can see the sense of worthlessness. Let me just move forward again and look at another Old Testament character, Elijah. In 1 Kings 19:4, he said this, but he himself went on a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die and said, it is enough. Now, O Lord, take my life, for I'm not better than my fathers. Again, you look at Elijah's life, you can see fatigue, you can see loss of pleasure, you can see suicidal ideation, you can see a sense of worthlessness. I'm not better than my fathers. All these show you that they fulfill the criteria. Then we move forward to New Testament. We look at Paul. In 2 Corinthians 1:8, Paul said this, for we do not want you to be unaware, brethren, of our affliction, which came to us in Asia, that we were burdened excessively beyond our strength, so that we despair even of life. So if you look at Paul's life, you can see at this stage of his life, he was going through stress, he was going through affliction, he was being burdened, not just burdened, he was being burdened excessively. All right, there's fatigue, and there's even the sense of despair, even of life, thinking of suicide. So just to look at these three examples, the question, based on this framework, can we find some biblical characters with possible state of depression? The answer is certainly yes. All right? Just look at another four person. Mother Teresa, Charles Spurgeon, D.L. Moody, John Calvin. What do they all have in common? Now, these are all spiritual giants, and yet they all had struggled with depression. So what does it tell us? It doesn't matter about your spirituality. You are not automatically immune from depression or mental illness. This is the picture taken by famous faces of depression of the world, and the other one is the famous people in Singapore that had depression. These are people who have lived in condition of depression. Now look at these established individuals. All right, people like Winston Churchill, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Florence Nightingale, Isaac Newton, Martin Luther. These are all Christians who struggled, who suffered with depression. And I like the statement there. Our sickness does not define us, because all these individuals went on to live fulfilled life. Right, so I want to encourage us. Our sickness does not define us. All right? Only God can define us. The question for you and I today is, how can we help? In order for you and I to help people with mental disorder, we need to develop new and deep learning. You see, superficial knowledge can be more harmful than good. So therefore, to effectively help someone, we need to know the fallen nature of man. We need to know what helps they can receive so that we can effectively help them. And to find out more, check out my next video. Thank you.
Our speaker for tonight is Madam Evonne Wee. Evonne is a counselor at Care Corner Counselling Center. She has practiced counseling in China and Singapore with diverse and international client populations. Prior to earning her master's degree in mental health counseling, Evonne has different working experience, such as in the line of marketing, consultation, education, and non-profit organizations. She enjoys helping each of her clients assess their innate strengths and resilience to overcome challenges and experience growth. Assisting Evonne in the Q&A after her sharing is Madam Lily Chan, who is also a professional counselor from Care Corner. So now let us hear from Evonne on the topic of anxiety.
Hello, my name is Evonne. I'm a counselor with Care Corner Counselling Center. Welcome to this series on empowerment for effective self-care. I'm sharing on the first topic, which is anxiety. I'm going to open my PPT now. So when we talk about this idea of anxiety, maybe we can just spend a few moments to check in with ourselves. How are you feeling right now? Are you feeling pretty good? What would you rate your own level of anxiety as on a scale of 0 to 10? I wonder if your anxiety is at more than 5 or less than 5. And with this first picture, I want to share with you is a man who is surfing on this huge wave. And what's your reaction when you see this? Would you like to be this man? Do you think he is feeling really excited and like exhilarated? This is such a great challenge, an accomplishment, or do you feel like, oh no, I'm so scared and I'm just waiting for that wave to crash on him and he'll tumble and then he'll be in great pain? I wonder if some of us tend to see this picture in a more positive way. Maybe we tend to be more adventurous. Maybe some of us see this picture as full of danger and fear. Uh, yeah, it's just interesting to know how we tend to think. Um, so, when we talk about anxiety, what are we talking about anyway? Well, maybe my first question is, what are the things that most often give you anxiety in your life? When I talk to different clients or even people around me, I think the common things that we have anxiety about might be work or school and our family relationships or other close relationships. And we may also have worries about health or financial matters. Yeah, or I also think that in the last year, we have been quite worried about the COVID situation, right? It's been a bit out of our control, although we're doing the best we can with it, right? We've and we also have anxiety when there's changes around us, right? Another way to deepen our understanding of anxiety is if you speak in a language other than English, how do you express this word or this idea of anxiety? Uh, in the last 1 or 2 years, I was able to talk to different groups of people, and they shared with me that in their native language, this word anxiety also comes with a connotation of like fear or shock or even some sadness. So it's interesting to see how other languages talk about anxiety and what are common words or phrases we use to describe anxiety. I think in our daily language, if we are just talking to someone or someone is talking to us, they may say, oh, you think too much, stop thinking too much. Maybe you're making a mountain out of a molehill, and oh, you're too sensitive. Yeah, these are the common ideas that an outsider might have of a person who is having anxiety. And also, what do you notice about yourself when you are anxious? I noticed that I am more irritable and I probably snap at people faster, probably a bit rude. I think probably my internal voice is also more critical of myself when I'm anxious, when things don't go well. And um, I also noticed I'm very tense. At different times, I've had like neck pains or shoulder pains because I've been tensing my muscles all day unconsciously. But when I stop, I notice that there's a lot of tension. Um, and also, for the people around you, what do you notice about others when they get anxious? Some of my friends or colleagues, They may pace around more. They may start organizing the things on their desk to try and get some order and some control of their environment. I do see some people, they just look less relaxed. They are more rushing to do things. They don't have time to stop and talk to you as much. So yeah, this probably describes all of us when we are feeling more anxious or have some stress. I want to share with you that anxiety exists on a spectrum. So maybe in a typical day, we are actually going in and out of anxiety, or my level of anxiety is going up and down, like ebbs and flows like the waves. Maybe in a typical day, there might be a few situations where I'm more anxious. There's something I need to deal with. Maybe in between, I'm more neutral. So it actually maybe exists on a bell curve where there's some amount of people that's having low anxiety, some amount that's having high levels of anxiety, but maybe more of us are in the middle where it's let's say a medium amount of anxiety. And different times during the day, we move in and out of anxiety. We're not really supposed to be at a very high level of anxiety all of the time, because I think that would mean we would be burning out, and it's just not sustainable. So how do we know when something is a problem or it's just like not a problem? So one guideline we have for whether anxiety is clinical is if it interferes with work or with school, and it affects our personal relationships. So when I've spoken with some of my clients, some of them have anxiety, but they are able to go to their normal job and do a fairly good enough performance at their job, so they are able to maintain their job. On the other hand, I also have clients who are highly anxious and they are not able to get out of their house and go to their job regularly, or maybe they always take sick days from work or school, but that's because their anxiety is too much and they're trying to avoid going to work or school. That makes them very fearful, right? So if it interferes in work or school or affects your personal relationships, that might be an indication that you have clinical anxiety. And I'd like to encourage everyone that you don't need to wait till you're having really serious anxiety or crisis before you seek help, okay? If you are feeling any discomfort or have some questions that you'd just like to have some feedback on, I think it's a good idea if you seek help early. At the end of this presentation, I'll share some hotline numbers. So on my next slide, it lists some of the physical symptoms someone might have. It's kind of a humorous picture, but it's kind of not funny when it's happening to you. I've had some of my clients share with me that at times they really feel their heart is beating very fast, and then they think they're having a heart attack or they're going to faint or just fall down in a public place. And then they have even gone to the doctor to get their heart checked, or maybe even brain scans. They just worry like, oh, in my body, I'm feeling so bad. There must be something wrong with me medically. And at times, when they do a lot of health checks, they find that there's nothing wrong with you. We've done all the checks and screening. So then we think that might be anxiety, right? Because they report that they feel pains in their body and discomfort. So people might say like, oh, my heart is beating very fast, my palms are sweaty, my mind is racing, I'm thinking too much, I can't get to sleep even if I'm really tired. And they also report like, I have no appetite to eat, or I have digestion problems, or I can't get to sleep, I have insomnia. Does this sound like any of us? And also, sometimes anxiety is going on and we're not quite aware, but maybe if we were a bit observant, we can be aware maybe there are signs. So what I've seen is sometimes people drink more coffee than usual. Some people eat more snacks than usual. Some people smoke more cigarettes than usual. Some people in their behavior, they're less patient and they're more irritable. They are more easily overwhelmed if they face some challenges and setbacks. And some people report like, I cannot focus or concentrate, I'm very forgetful, things slip my mind. And some people, it's really easy to see they rush through things like eating, and they talk faster and they talk with a lot of force. So we can sense that they are more anxious. On the flip side of that, I think it's also good when we notice when our anxiety is low. How am I? What kind of person am I when my anxiety is low? I think I can respond to things with more humor. I can laugh at myself if I make some mistakes. I'm able to make a plan B or think of more alternatives. I think I'm much more compassionate to myself and to others when my anxiety is lower. And I feel like we can see the big picture of what we're trying to do and see the context, not be so tunnel vision. And I feel I can respond in a more flexible way. And I feel I can be much more kind to myself, right? And others when I'm not as anxious. I'm more forgiving. So when we talk about anxiety, just to broaden our knowledge, our anxiety might be expressed in different ways. So in the DSM, there are a few types of anxiety disorders listed. We have GAD or general anxiety. We have panic disorder. We have social phobia. We have phobias. We have PTSD, and we have OCD. So on the right-hand side, we have some descriptions, right? And let's play a kind of matching game where I'll read the description on the right and you try to guess which one it matches on the left, okay? So if someone has extreme or irrational fear of or aversion to something, which kind of anxiety do you think they have? Okay, if you said phobias, you are right. So when I think of phobias, the ones I quickly think of is like maybe a fear of spiders or fear of insects or a fear of heights. Yeah, those might be some of the phobias we hear about. So for the next one, B, if someone has unwanted and repeated thoughts, feelings, ideas, sensations, and behaviors that drive you to do something over and over, which one do you think is that one? So that one, the answer is OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder. So the common one that I think of is someone who washes their hands a lot because they are afraid of dirt and germs and getting sick, right? I spoke to a client recently also who has this idea of things being dirty, but they're not just dirty about dirt, but they're also like morally dirty, right? So for that client, it's like that. So for the third one on the right, item C, if someone has flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts triggered by a terrifying event. So which one is that? So that one is PTSD, If someone has had a very scary experience that they lived through, maybe it was even like a near-death experience, it can be quite traumatic. So later on, maybe sometime down the line, they are in a safe situation or a neutral situation, but they have flashbacks, and it's as if they are back in the scary situation, you know, and they behave like when you see their environment is safe, but they're behaving as if they are scared, you're like, why are you doing that? You are safe. But to them, like maybe in their mind, they're reliving the scary situation. So that's when they're having PTSD. And another type of anxiety disorder that some people have is item D, spontaneous, seemingly out of the blue, panic attacks and preoccupation with the fear of a recurring attack. So for D, the matching answer is panic disorder. I have had some clients tell me that they were out with their family walking in a shopping mall, and then they suddenly feel like they can't breathe, they're going to faint, they need to find a bench to sit down, and they suddenly feel their anxiety level rise, right? And the thing about this is it happened out of the blue. There was no kind of trigger before that. So they're very worried about the next time when it would occur. They're kind of worried about like, oh, it's probably going to happen in some inconvenient time and place, and I'll lose control, and then everyone will look at me, and then what am I going to do then, right? So that's when someone has panic disorder. They first have a panic attack, and then later it might become panic disorder where they have many panic attacks. And also a fear of the next one. And the item E, so some people experience this, excessive, exaggerated anxiety and worry about everyday life events with no obvious reasons for worry. So this is a description of generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. It might be a person who has a lot of anxiety and worry about several kinds of things in several kinds of areas. Yeah, and it seems like from the outside, it seems like things are going pretty well for them, but they are always anticipating the worst, right? Like maybe my work won't go well, my family won't go well, my health won't go well, even though all the evidence is that it's going fine. Yeah, so that's a person who has GAD. And the last one, for someone who has fear of social situations that involve interaction with other people and being negatively judged and evaluated by other people. So the last one is social phobia. So there are some clients I speak to that are really afraid of meeting new people, going in social situations or any situations where they have to talk to people. They are just convinced that the other person is thinking like, you're so stupid, you're so dumb, you're so boring, and they feel like all their flaws are on display, and you know, people are always thinking the worst of them. So these are some of my clients who have social phobia. Okay, even though like I have just listed several types of anxiety disorders, I hope we can take a moment to reflect. You know, I don't think I clinically have these anxiety disorders, but I can really, when I hear my clients tell about their experience, I can really relate to what my clients are saying, because I've had some of these kind of thoughts and feelings. Like I said, it exists on a spectrum, right? In a small way. But I think my clients who have these disorders, they experience them at a high level all of the time. Yeah, so I hope that as we have more understanding, we can have more compassion for people who actually suffer through these. So For my next slide, I want to spend some time talking about how anxiety helps us, or how anxiety is functional some of the time. You see in this picture on the slide that these guys are running away from a giant bear. And I hope it doesn't happen to you too often that you have to run away from a huge predator. But probably our ancestors during the caveman times, they really had to run away from huge animals like lions and tigers. And those cavemen who could run away from the lion and the tiger, they're actually the ones who survived and could pass on their genes, right? And if you are too slow, you would get eaten by a predator. So, all of us are kind of hardwired to tend towards anxiety because it has a survival function. There are ways it helps us and can be helpful to us. So sometimes when we have anxiety, we'll be more vigilant and alert, and we might not get hit by a car. Sometimes out of the corner of my eye, in my peripheral vision, I will sense some movement, and then before I cross the road, I'll actually look left, look right, look left, look right again to make sure it's safe before I cross the road. And or even this might help me yank my child's hand back and avoid my child from getting hit by a car. And I think we can relate to the next one. We've all had different work deadlines, and we might have some kind of adrenaline or anxiety that is carrying us through to meet the deadline. Maybe at the end of a stressful or pressurizing work project, we just have to pull an all-nighter or have an extra burst of energy to complete our job. And that's how sometimes our anxiety response can kind of help us. And sometimes maybe we have some anxiety, or when you go home, you have some tension. You sense that something's off. Maybe that indicates we need to attend to our spouse or our job or some other situation. Maybe at home you sense like, oh, there's some anxiety in the air, or there's some anxiety in my body. Maybe I did something to offend the other person or hurt the other person. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but that's what happened. So I need to ask, like, what happened? Help me to understand what happened. Did I do something unknowingly? Do I need to apologize for something? And also that's what that anxiety might help us with to repair our relationships. And just as important as our anxiety is what is our reaction to our anxiety, right? When a person has anxiety, some of us are able to observe it and accept it, while others of us might try harder to control the situation, or some of us might choose to withdraw or avoid, right? I think this is very important because some of our reactions make our anxiety bigger, and some actually make our anxiety smaller or allows the anxiety to pass through faster. So if you can just observe, oh, I'm anxious about something. Okay, maybe it's normal for me to be anxious on the first day of school or the first day of work in a new company. I can kind of accept it, right? On the other hand, sometimes when I'm anxious about something, I'll try and control the situation and the people around me. And that might work or might not work so well. And for some of us, it is so terrifying, right? That we'll just choose to withdraw or completely avoid the thing that's making us scared. So if we withdraw or avoid, it'll probably just continue to be scary, and the next time that happens, we'll still have to face our anxiety, right? Yeah. So it's good to be aware how we are reacting to it. So, what can we do? We can do self-care, which is just taking care of ourselves. Actually, self-care is not like a cure for anxiety, but I think it's like a baseline preventive kind of thing where I hope that all of us are practicing good self-care, so we are less likely to get over anxious if we are practicing good self-care. So at the bare minimum, I hope that we're all getting enough sleep, because if you don't get enough sleep, you'll probably, tend to be anxious the next day, or it will affect your mood. Some people like to do journaling as a form of self-care. I think it's a healthy practice to journal, to express your thoughts and feelings, right? Have a place to express. Some people enjoy going for a regular class or group to dance or sing or exercise. It's always so good to get your body moving and to enjoy these kind of creative hobbies, right? And I think this makes all of us feel good when we're able to do these things. A form of self-care may also be talking to friends and feeling connected to friends and connected to our community. I think all of us needs to feel supported by our friends, and also I think just as much we need to support our friends, to be giving that friendship and receiving that friendship. And some people really enjoy helping others. You might do some volunteer projects or charity work. And most often people say, like, I receive from it as much as I give. And I can resonate with that sense of satisfaction you get from helping others or volunteering your time. A good way to do some self-care is just to do some deep breathing exercises. You can even take a couple deep breaths with me right now. Sometimes we've been running around in our anxious state all day that we are not even aware of the tension in our body. And sometimes just by taking 1 minute or 5 minutes to do some deep breathing, it's like pressing a reset button. And an important component of self-care for many people can be their faith or religion. Participating in a worship service or doing their prayers. And also, it gives you a good perspective that I have my problems, but in the perspective of a bigger perspective, like it helps people feel someone like God is looking out for them and that they're not alone facing their problems. And do any of you have other ideas for self-care? If you do, can you type them in the chat box? Or after this talk, can you tell a good friend about what you do for self-care and make a commitment to yourself to practice good self-care? So I'm almost coming to the end of my talk. I just want to ask us, like, how can you use anxiety as an opportunity for deeper growth? Anxiety is not always something bad, but maybe it can prompt us to look deeper within. Is there something we need or some changes we need to make? Or do we need to get back more on a healthier path? Is there something we need to address? And that will actually help us have deeper growth. And I also want to leave you with this picture. This is like a Chinese painting of bamboo. I think it's a very beautiful picture. And actually, I want to share with you that anxiety is a very normal part of all of our lives, but that all of us are also very resilient. Like the bamboo will bend and will bend back and will bend down again, and we can bend up again. And that I believe we all have strength and resilience to face the different things that cause us anxiety in our lives. Okay, just want to remind you. And also, I want to leave you with these community resources. There are a lot of hotline numbers you can call if you are feeling some signs of anxiety or depression or just need someone to talk to. Yeah, feel free to call these different hotlines, or maybe this can be a good resource for somebody around you also. Again, I'm from Care Corner, and we hope to bring care to every corner in Singapore. And I hope that the things I've shared in this talk would help you and just give you a moment to pause and reflect. If you need to be taking care of yourself better, or maybe it might help you to understand some people around you better. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lily, and that's my friend, colleague, Evonne. I hope you like her talk and it's doing good for you. So, Evonne, let me ask you, how are you feeling now?
I'm feeling quite nervous.
How do you rate your anxiety since you asked us, every one of us here?
My own anxiety went up and down during the duration of the talk.
Yeah, me too. I was so excited to hear. For myself, would be by 8. No, not 8. Maybe 5. Because I was just picking up the questions to answer so that Evonne could answer for us. What do you think? Is anxiety a good thing, Evonne?
Well, I think how we respond to our anxiety makes a difference for us. Yeah.
So is it good?
I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's just what it is.
Do you think anxiety help us to perform slightly better or better because it keeps us on our toes, keeps us on our feet, that we will not like sitting around and just go along with it?
Yeah, I think anxiety is just listening to the feedback our body is giving us. Like if I feel anxious and scared, then I can just stop and think, oh, what is that about? And what am I worried about? What do I want to do about that? And I don't have to automatically respond. I don't have to just freak out. I can think like, oh, how can I prepare to face this? And what are the resources I have?
Yeah, it's like being more aware of your anxiety and able to manage them. So you slow down and take take one step backwards and to think about it and to ask yourself what you could do next, right? Yeah. So there's this question that says that, upstream preventing approach to anxiety that actually go through, is it, so is it like, means like, is prevention better than cure?
Yeah,
Or
I definitely think all of us should have those healthy self-care practices. And I think you all know what you need to keep yourself operating in a good zone. Like I know how I am when I'm too tired, and I know how I feel when I'm feeling energetic and confident.
mm,
Yeah, so if I'm getting a little bit of exercise, there's not too much stresses in my life, or even if I have stresses and I felt I can handle it, that gives me a sense of accomplishment and feeling capable. Then I feel less anxious.
Yeah. I like what you did earlier. You did a few deep breathing with us. I hope the audience do feel a bit calm down through the breathing, because in between it helps us to regulate our mind so that we can absorb and focus better. Yeah. I have this question on is panic disorder just frequent panic attacks, or are they just frequent panic attacks? Are they the same?
So I
Panic disorder and panic attacks.
Yeah, so I think panic attacks is when you have one episode of sudden panic, and then some clients have a few episodes, and they are also worried about when the next panic attack will come on. So I think when that happens to some of my clients, it's like they have the fear and the worry, when is the next one coming? And so that means they are feeling quite nervous. The baseline nervousness is raised, and then it's more likely that they will trip over into the next panic attack happening.
Okay, let's maybe not talk about panic attacks. Like, for example, I'm feeling anxious and I'm getting all the symptoms. When do I know that I need professional help, and what should I do about it?
Don't wait until it's a huge full-blown crisis, then it's harder to get a handle on it and manage it. But if you find you have persistent worries and always worried about the same things, and you notice the same patterns in your life, maybe you can talk to a professional about it. If that's scary for you, you can just find a trusted friend to talk about your daily concerns.
Yeah, I like that. Sometimes I experience clients who hesitant to come for counseling because they have the stigma that if I attend a counseling session means that I have a mental problem. What do you think?
I'm a person who doesn't think that if you have some anxiety, it equals like you have a mental problem. For me, it's very normal that all of us has some symptoms of anxiety and depression at different points in our life. Yeah, sometimes it's a response to things that are happening. But if the trigger has passed and then you are still in that elevated state or in a down state, then maybe we can take a look at that.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's how we cope with different situations rather than thinking that having the stigma of being mentally not well. Yeah, so that's a stigma. I think for counseling wise, we come in to talk to the counselor to have a different perspective and how you're feeling, and so that you have someone to talk to rather than chewing your own anxiety over and over again, especially having negative thoughts. Yeah.
I think one question that we keep getting in the chat, and I think it's a really good question, is sometimes in my talk, right, I'm talking about our normal daily anxieties, which may not meet the definition of clinical anxiety with a capital A. I did that intentionally because I just want all of us to understand we all have normal daily stress and anxiety with a small letter A. But if we don't pay attention to these kind of things, it may develop into a bigger anxiety. And if you're interested to know, you can actually Google it. And there's a tool called the GAD-7 or the PHQ. There are some online assessments. Yeah, if you want to get a rating. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a very good inventory tool to check your anxiety level. What about If I keep having nagging thoughts all the time and being critical about myself, I wonder what can I do about it?
Negative thoughts?
Yeah, because it makes me anxious, and it will come over and over my brain, and and I become so critical about myself. I blame myself. So, is there other ways to deal with this?
What do you think?
Oh,
What would you say if that person? I mean, I think it's different if different people said it to me.
yeah. Well, if you want to know more how to get out of your negative thoughts and critical self, maybe you should say, tell them about next week.
Oh, okay. Actually, to give a small advertisement, in 2 weeks, Lily is going to be giving a talk on emotion regulation. So in that talk, she will teach you some techniques to regulate your emotions.
Okay,
And-
so
And I was just saying, actually, there's no easy answer to some of these questions because some people who are in the audience, they may be having negative thoughts as which is quite not so dangerous. They are just some of that chatter we have in our head, like you're not good enough or something. And it might not bother them so much. But some other people in our audience, they may have negative thoughts because they had some trauma or bigger issues that happen. So that's why it's kind of hard to answer this question with one correct answer that will cover every situation.
yes, I think there are many techniques that we can learn to regulate our negative emotions or negative thoughts. Yeah. But I think one thing very important is not to judge ourselves, or blame ourselves. Yeah. And that will actually manage part of our anxieties because we tend to blame ourselves and criticize ourselves, and you're not that kind to ourselves sometimes. So talking about being like unkind to ourselves, so we have to like have more self-compassion, and that will be our third talk. All right, please tune in. Yeah, our third talk in this series is on self-compassion. I hope that you tune in because I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of there. We're going to teach you how to be kind and loving yourself. Yeah. So this anxiety talk is probably just the background of what we are going to be leading into. So next week we'll talk about emotion regulation, on how you regulate your anxieties or your emotions. And the following week we'll talk about self-compassion. So this is how the talk leads. Yeah. Something here is like, do you believe in mindfulness as a self-care method?
Yeah, I think so. Mindfulness, as I understand it, is just observing our thoughts without being so stuck to them so I think it's a good practice if we just quieten down and see what is, all our thoughts about. And it's good to be aware of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think some Christians will also, like their daily quiet time is a way to practice their mindfulness, like read God's word and hear what is God speaking to them. Yeah, I think it's a form of mindfulness, or it may fulfill some of the same purposes.
Yes. Talking to God is the first step of the day to clear our mind. Yeah. Yes. I think that's very important. The most critical point. It's like you're talking about self-care. That was like your last item. And I do pick up from the chat, or you tell me what is self-care to you and what do you do for self-care. Some say that you talk to friends, which is very important. You talk to someone. You don't feel so alone in your journey, right? Like I have Evonne here and Evonne has me. We are supporting each other right now. And some of them went shopping, online shopping as self-care. Some are hobbies. Evonne she's very good at her hands, with her hands, right? She will do knitting and she'll sew, and she'll make small little gifts and put around the office for us. And there's some will go for food therapy as self-care. Dramas, some watch Korean drama, some watch TV or movies. But what I love here is some mention they read the Bible and meditate on the Bible, which, as I mentioned, it start us on the right track with God on the first day in the morning. Oh, this one very interesting. They say go and look for the sea otters. Some take daily walks, long walks, and have daily gratitude. That means to be gratitude, to feel, to be thankful for, right? Yeah, to thankful for the day or the situation that they are in. Yeah, but what about you, for Evonne? What is the self-care that you love?
Well, as Lily said, I like doing like handcrafts, or I think that focuses a certain part of my mind and then lets my worried brain take a rest. You know, if I can focus my attention on my hobbies or something I like. Yeah.
Okay. For my self-care is I like to take short breaks and I like to go for walks and just come down for a while to manage my emotions so that I can focus and think better. But my fun self-care is to go to my dog and play with my dog. Yeah, that's so fun, right? And maybe for parents, they play with their children or they talk to their elderly friends. I mean, talking to people is actually self-care, right? It's like we are nurturing our being, our body. Yeah, and we find companionship.
Yeah, and I think if you observe children or you observe dogs, I think they are very present. They are not worried and in their mind about the past and the future and all the things that are going wrong. They are just very present and then enjoying the moment and playing, you know. If you see some kids in the playground playing with bubbles, like that's probably a self-care for me too. You know, I can enjoy the bubbles through the children enjoying their bubbles.
Yeah, that's so nice and so fun. Maybe you can explain to us, Evonne. Earlier we mentioned about the anxieties, and one of them you mentioned, which is GAD, General Anxiety Disorder. Now, would you like to tell our audience here which is the one that identifies as GAD?
GAD stands for Generalized Anxiety Disorder. So a very layman's way of saying it is you worry about a few different things and they're kind of daily, everyday things. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I see one question, it says, can medication cause anxiety? And that's possible. Some certain medications for certain conditions, they cause anxiety as a side effect. So you can check that out with your doctor, or you can Google about it to get some starter information. Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. Just get the right prescription for your medication. Please don't self-medicate because it will affect your mood and affect your thinking, and perhaps you may make a wrong. You will not make good decisions. Yeah.
Some were actually more worried about their friends or maybe their families, people whom they thought or maybe think that they have anxiety. So how do they handle this? Yeah. Perhaps either Evonne or Lily, you may want to share.
So Joyda will send out the whole Zoom recording later, so you can see the last page of my PPT. And you can call any of those hotlines to tell them a little bit about your symptoms. And they might be able to talk to you and give you some simple suggestions to help. And if that doesn't help, they may refer you to one of the counseling places. You can also say that I have some financial need. I think that's a very valid concern. Yeah, because some private counseling can be very high cost, right? So I know that our center is more reasonable. Yeah, but if I was a person interested in counseling, I would, one concern for me would also be something near my house. that's easy to travel to, and then cost is a concern. And for some people, it may be like, I want my counselor to have the same religious background as me, or I prefer a male or female counselor. So yeah, you can just tell the person on the hotline and find the right one for you.
Is there a way to break the anxiety circle?
Yes, but it may take some
time, right?
It takes time.
Yeah.
It's never like a magic cure that happens very fast.
Yes. I think whatever situation we are facing is in terms of anxieties, we need to be patient and be patient to take time. It takes time to break the anxiety or the anxious feelings or stressful moment that we have.
I have had clients that came and talked to me for 3 sessions or 5 sessions, and they felt strong enough on their own feet and they could face the challenges coming. And then I have had clients that I've talked to for 1 year or 2 years, and then they just prefer to have a support of a counselor ongoing.
Yes. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you have mental disorder, okay? We just come in to talk to the counselor like once every 3 months or 6 months, and it can be go on ongoing basis because it helps you to clear your thoughts and your mind so that you are able to manage your anxiety better, and you're not the only one facing it. Yeah. So if you have relatives or friends who have anxiety, just listen to them, give them a hearing, listen, and you may not have to give advice. What they just need from you is a listening ear and be by their side to support them. Yeah, but if they are, it's very, very severe, you can, as what Evonne saying, do call our hotlines. We have very professional hotlines counselors who are able to help you through. And if not, if you cannot really manage, encourage them just to call Care Corner, our front desk. Our front desk are able to help you to perhaps if you need to make an appointment to see our counselors. Yeah, but just encourage them. It's not a stigma. Yeah, we just want to improve the feeling that we have, right? So that we can function and cope better.
I see there's one question about any advice for caregivers. I think that's very important to address also, because it's not easy to live with someone in your household who has anxiety or any other mental health disorder. But I think if I was the sufferer of anxiety, I just actually need more understanding and compassion, and to understand from their point of view, like what they're going through, are they concerned about, and just be there for them. Actually, most of the time, we don't need to solve the issue for that person, but they just want to feel like there's someone with them, someone sees them, someone understands, and that will help them a lot already. And to the caregiver, I would want to say, like, get support for yourself too, because caregiver stress and caregiver burnout is another kind of mental health condition, or it's a pattern that we see out there. Yeah. So for caregivers, I guess you need time away from that person. You need some activities where you feel good doing. Yeah. You need your own support also. Yeah, I think anxiety can lead to binge eating and addictions. I think sometimes those strange behaviors that we have, like binge eating or addictions, is like we're trying to get away from our anxiety or trying to get away from our uncomfortable feelings. Coping mechanism, yes, correct.
So we are actually very thankful to be able to hear and receive tonight's teaching with no cost at all. If you are moved by our initiative to actually provide this mental wellness program, do support us by scanning the QR code on the screen with a PayNow app, or visit our donor box page at donorbox.org/ENGSIBD. Please indicate that self-care in the comment or reference column. And you can also support us by giving us your feedback, help us to improve on our training programs by giving us your feedback through this QR code, which is in the orange box, or you can go to the link shown on the screen, which is tinyurl.com/SIBD self-care. We will once again like to thank Evonne and Lily for helping us for this session, and Reverend Chua for sharing his thoughts on Christian and mental health. Thank you so much, everyone.